Most nights I stay up late because I want to, but tonight I'm staying up late because I have to. My middle daughter, Chloe, is having a sleepover, and if you've ever had several preteen girls at your house, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So much glitter. Anyway, to pass the time, I'm working on an amazing quilt that uses solid fabrics, half square triangles, and puts a little twinkle in my night sky. Plus, I'll tell you about a brand new series in which you'll get to meet the rest of my family. Let's get to it. So the pattern I'm making is called Night Sky, and it's designed by Monique Dillard, which you know I like her patterns. I've used them a lot in the show. And of course, the best part, it's fat quarter friendly. Like we all don't have a couple extra fat quarters laying around. So I'm gonna use these fat quarters and this white background to make a beautiful starry quilt. And all I have to do is divide up my fat quarters into pairs of two. Basically, I need a dark and a light. Kind of like I need one adult for every teenager that's here, or somewhere close. I will say that after having children, I have called to my mom and apologized to her several times about things I've done when I was young. There's nothing like a teenager to bring that out, right? Some darker blues, maybe a dark and a light gray would look nice. You can follow the color placement that she gives you in the pattern, or you can make up your own. I probably will just pull them together and then get started. Once you have your groupings, and then you can set a few of them aside for the binding, for a fun scrappy binding. And now that I have them all paired up and grouped together, it's time to start cutting this up like a sous chef. Okay, so the next step is to cut my background in fat quarters. I just feel like it's so quiet. They're never quiet. Okay, I'm gonna cut this into strips and then cut those strips into squares, and then I'll get to cut my fat quarters. After cutting my strips in different widths, I'm gonna cut them in squares. Now that I'm done with the white, it's time to see these bright, beautiful colors get cut up. And so grabbing two of my fat quarters, I'm gonna kind of try to keep them together because these will eventually become two of my blocks. And I'm gonna cut these into strips and squares and all that fun stuff so that I can turn them into my star block. So I have the first two colors that I'm gonna be working with on my star block. I have a lighter and a dark. This is what's gonna give it its twinkly little look. And I'm gonna turn these into half square triangles. You guessed it, it's obviously a favorite of mine. But what I'm gonna do is draw a line from corner to corner on the darker blocks. And let's put them right sides together. Well, there is no right or wrong side with solid fabrics. That's what's so nice. Put them together like this, and I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam on each side of that line, and I'm gonna repeat with both of these blocks. There's the first two half square triangles. Pretty easy, right? I just need to cut on that line and press them open, and I have 4 of them ready to go. So I have 4 half square triangles of the dark and the light color for my star. Then I have a half square triangle of each color with the white background. So this is the dark blue with the white, and then the light blue with the white. So 3 different kinds, kind of like my 3 different children. This is my oldest, he thinks he's too cool to love me. This is my middle one, she's quite the entertainer, and then this is my baby right here. Well, now I'm gonna sew these together to make the points of my star. Starting with these colored squares right here with a background, I'm gonna sew them together, and these will actually be the points of my beautiful star. And so I'm excited to see how that comes together. I'm gonna pull those edges, line it up, perfect, and then sew with that 1/4 inch seam. I can't tell you how much fun it's been doing this Midnight Quilt Show. I'm so thankful for all of you that have come along with me and watched all these episodes. And I get to meet so many cool people outside of these walls, and I want to share that experience with you. Plus, I want you to get to know my children, my quilt shop, all the things I do when I'm not staying up late, avoiding doing adult things. So we have a new series called True Up, and you can check out that new series on Crassy's new streaming subscription service, and you can even watch the first episode for free today, so check out the description box below. And there are so many fun episodes, I hope you get to check them out. All right, then I'm gonna trim these apart, press them open, and then get to making the little star that's inside the big star. It's kind of interesting having preteens, you know, you feel like you have babies and you feel like they're never gonna grow up, and then they do, and they turn into these almost like mini adults, and it's kind of fun watching them take care of the goats and have their friends over. I just wish that girls weren't so loud when they were that age, right? Oh, goodness. I mean, not that I was loud or anything. Chloe gets all that loudness from her dad. So I have my little half square triangles. These are the babies. Aren't they so cute? And that's going to be the center of my star. And I made these the same way that I made the big ones, but I'm not quite ready for them yet. So I'm going to set them aside because my little star needs some points as well. And that's where my background comes in again and my two colors. So again, just to reiterate, we're keeping the same two colors throughout the block. That's why I like piecing this quilt one block at a time. Grabbing one of my background rectangles, I'm going to lay it right here. And I'm just going to draw this line from point to point. The difference is this one is going to get lined up from corner to corner. We're doing a stitch and flip, which is pretty much what we did earlier, except I'm going to sew directly on the line this time and then trim it 1/4 inch away. And I'm going to do that on each of these points. So now I have 4 rectangles with the blue on the right side. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with the other color, except now it's pretty obvious which direction this goes. Whew, thank goodness. So I'm going to lay it out, sew on the line, trim and iron, and then I'll finally be ready to put this block together. So I have all my beautiful parts to my block. I'm going to lay it out so you can see how this star block comes together. This is going to be the center of my pinwheel. It makes a little pinwheel. And then those flying geese blocks that we just made, we're going to go like this, and that's where we see the point of the star come out. All right, so now I have my star, and if I wanted to, I could stop there, but that's like stopping with one amazing kid. Why stop when you can keep going, right? So I'm going to use the bigger half square triangles and the flying geese to add a border to the star. Nice, beautiful block, and what I'm looking at, how I know I have this together, is that the colors are kind of sticking together. So there's my dark, there's my light, there's that, and then I have a nice, big, tall block, kind of like my son. Drake is 15, and his main achievement in life is that he's now taller than me. He'll say, "Hey Mom, how's the weather down there?" To which I reply lovingly and sweetingly, "I can still spank you, honey." So I'm going to start with the pinwheel in the center, make this whole center star, and then we'll see the rest of it come together. I would say he's going to be super embarrassed that I'm talking about him, but he doesn't watch the Midnight Quilt Show anyway. One of these days, I'm sure he'll think that I'm cool as a mom, right? Does that ever come back? So the center of the star is finished. I'm going to start adding the pieces around the outside, and it's going to look fantastic. Real quick first though, I'm going to check on Chloe and her friends. I know I could go up there, but I'm just going to text her real quick. Smiley face emoji. Good. All right, she's a good girl. She's my most outgoing child, definitely attention seeking, hilarious, adorable. I mean, she's like her mom in every way. No, she's a good girl. I'm just making sure they're not getting into my quilting room like she did one time when she was 2. Now, she does watch the Midnight Quilt Show. By the way, she does read the comments. I try to keep her from doing that, but she does, but it's kind of cute how she's protective of her mommy. But when she was 3, her and her cousin got into my quilting room with Sharpies. Yeah, it was not pretty. It was like I walked in, turned around, walked right back out. Long story short, my quilting room now has a lock on it that is a keypad function, so very nice. This star block is finished. I have to make them in all the other colors, and then we'll see this quilt finally come together. So I've laid out the first 2 rows of the blocks. I've made sure the girls have their pizza. Everything is going great up there, so it's time to finish this beautiful quilt. One thing I want to point out is how beautiful these jewel tone colors pop off of that white fabric, but the best thing about it is there's no wrong way to turn these blocks. It doesn't matter where you set them, it's always going to be the right way. So all I need to do is sew the blocks into rows, sew the rows together, and then get to quilting. The center of my quilt is done, and I love how the lights and darks of each color really highlight each star. One thing I want to point out is she shows you exactly where you can place all your stars, which I followed. I tend to be a follower, but you can be more adventurous and change up the colors, of course. All I need to do is to add my border strips onto the quilt and then get to machine quilting. So now it's quilting time. I'm pretty sure all the girls are asleep, at least they look like they were when I peeked in on them, but I'm not trusting that. I'm gonna do an all-over design so that I can start and stop easily and not get too distracted by what's going on upstairs. And I'm thinking something nice and curvy is gonna look perfect on these pointy stars. Oh man, I'm realizing I can't get a grip on this big quilt, so I'm gonna use my gloves, help me kind of have a little bit more control. I'm realizing I never told you about Haley. So Haley is my youngest, she's almost 9. She's so sweet, so methodical, so very mature for her age. She kind of keeps the elder two in line, which is really nice. Oh, and I just love snuggling with her. Such a cutie. I'm sure soon she'll be heading to that age where she doesn't love me anymore, right? You know, those teen years, but right now, she loves her mommy. So I love the way the soft curves are really gonna offset those pointy squares. So I'm gonna start by quilting a line that curls in on itself, kind of like a swirl, and then from the outside, and then from the point, starting to quilt these feathery half-heart shapes. And I'm kind of leaving those half-heart shapes spread out a little bit because once I get to the end of my area, I'm gonna work my way back around echoing to kind of build up that shape. When I'm done echoing, I'm gonna go right into my next swirl and then again into those petals. But I'm gonna use that echoing to kind of maneuver around, add my next swirl, and then my next petals. What I love about this design is as long as everything is filled in as consistently as possible, it's gonna look great, no matter what the individual feather looks like. All right, well, I'm gonna keep quilting these fun feathers, keep an ear out for the girls upstairs, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Well, after a few starts and stops to go check on the girls upstairs, this quilt is finally finished. The great thing about all these beautiful star points is that if one or two aren't quite perfect, you're not going to be able to see them over the whole quilt. A quick and easy, feathery, flowery type quilting design was just the ticket for this twinkling star of a quilt. And to see more of what happens during the day, check out my new series, True Up, where you'll learn more about my husband, kids, quilting classes, oh, and my goats. I haven't even told you about my goats. So check that out. You can find it on Craftsy's streaming subscription service.